When you think of indie games, I think that for most people, a few games would generally come to mind. Games like Hades, Terraria, Celeste, all of these games serve as hallmarks of the indie gaming scene. But a game that I think most people will probably mention more often than not is the game Hollow Knight. To me, Hollow Knight might be the perfect example of everything that a good indie game wants to be. And with the announcement of Silksong's release, finally giving us an actual date, I wanted to explain some of the strengths behind Team Cherry's method of developing their games, and how a longer wait time could actually be a necessary sacrifice in exchange for a better developed and more fun game. And while most people would probably think of this as a bad thing, since you would assume that less people working on the project would result in a worse game, I actually think that it's through Team Cherry's unbelievably small workforce that allowed Hollow Knight to become the incredible game that it is. Unlike many other gaming companies, Team Cherry is fully independent. This means they are able to have full control over Hollow Knight's production, without some overbearing and greedy company restricting the developer's creativity. It allows games like Hollow Knight to fully fulfill the vision its creators initially had for it, and in my opinion result in a much better product. And although the game may have less financial backing, and a longer time in production, I think this is a fair trade-off if it allows a game to retain its individuality and reach its full potential. The downsides of being backed by a larger company can already be seen in many video games. But I think probably the best example actually falls in the realm of the film industry. Disney is the largest and richest film company in the world, and probably one of the largest companies in the world in general. It has a history of producing amazing shows and movies, ranging from younger audiences to even adults. However, it also has a history of ruining products, with prioritizing corporate interests and money over creating actually good and unique films, especially in recent years. Whether it be making sequels and remakes instead of brand new films, making too many unnecessary cuts to lessen the watch time, or even just straight up dips in overall quality, Disney has decided to ruin the production of almost every new piece of media that they make. Rather than trying to go out and make something unique and special, something with actual love and care behind it, Disney has shifted its focus on simply making more money. And they're not even doing that. Take the recent Marvel, for example. For almost an entire decade, Marvel movies served as probably the best action film that you can find in modern media. But recently, these movies have also taken on these terrible production practices. Movies like The Marvels and The Eternals posted a net negative on their box office results, and even Disney Plus shows like Secret Invasion and all of the recent Spider-Man villains were received very, very poorly. And again, this is simply because of their terrible production. And yeah, although Disney is still a business, the corporation still has to acknowledge that it's in the film industry, which is literally a creative art. This is just what happens when you take away the life and creativity that goes into making a good film or game. And that's why the production of games like Hollow Knight and Silksong are probably my preferred ones. And yet, a lot of times, it can be difficult for a small company to be able to gain enough money to fully realize a product like that. But there are many ways around this. Take Team Cherry for example. When Hollow Knight was first in production, it was mostly funded through its Kickstarter, which had raised around 57,000 AUD, or 42,000 USD. And I know, raising that much money through a Kickstarter is a very difficult thing to do. But if your idea is good enough, with a little bit of luck, it can still be done. And yes, although games produced this way take forever to finish, I think it ends up being worth it if you end up with a game like Hollow Knight, and hopefully Silksong as well. Hollow Knight is probably in my top 5 games of all time. And aside from the insane boss fights, beautiful music, and impressive visuals, it was really just the vibe that it gave me that allowed my experience playing it stick with me for so long. Hollow Knight is a pretty dark game. Its setting is apocalyptic in nature, its story one of redemption and sacrifice, and the graphics gray and gloomy. And my playthrough of it kind of came at the perfect time. It was near the end of 2020 when I first began to play Hollow Knight. And as many of you have probably already figured out, this was right in the middle of the pandemic, when everybody was still confined to their own homes. And this solitude kind of took a toll on me. But my one outlet was video games. They allowed me to escape the troubles of the real world, and offered me another one to absorb myself in. They gave me the kind of escapism that I wanted so badly. And among these games was Hollow Knight. It spawned an obsession with other indie games, and made my time in lockdown much more bearable than without it. Hollow Knight is a game that kind of means a lot to me, and I'd much rather have to wait 8 years, maybe even more, if it means that I'll get to experience a game like it again. And even though Silksong is probably one of the most anticipated games of all time, I really do appreciate the fact that Team Cherry took the time it needed to make a polished and incredible game. At least, I hope. A recent interview with some of the staff even shed some light into the reasons for its long production time. And the answer was pretty simple. The developers were just having too much fun. Without any outside pressure or deadlines from a larger company to finish up the game, and more than enough money from their previous success in Hollow Knight, Team Cherry were able to pour all of their passion into their development of Silksong, so much so that they simply couldn't stop developing new things. I don't know if them saying that was just a marketing ploy or something, but I'm gonna be honest, this gets me really excited for the game. I feel like every good piece of media out there, whether it be video games, movies, books, etc., all of them were made by a person or group who simply enjoyed making their art. That kind of passion bleeds through into the product, and it really does make a big difference. Seriously though, I am so incredibly hyped for Silksong to release, as I know the rest of you watching this video are too. But in the end, I guess it's up to the developers to decide whether or not Silksong will be a great game. I just hope it'll be worth the 8-year-long wait.